And I had this experience yesterday, and I wanted to get on and talk about it because it was profound in a lot of ways. So sometimes I have the privilege of forgetting that I have complex PTSD, and that's pretty big. Um, I unfortunately grew up with a lot of trauma, a lot of neglect, a lot of every category of everything, and then in adulthood had some very harmful relationships. I'll just put it that way. And I had to do a lot of work. I've done probably 12 years of therapy in my life and have really done what I can, what's in my power to process the things that I've been through and to see them not as determinant of who I am or my quality, my value in the world, etc. Right? Kind of uncoupling from the stories of personalization of not being enough and all of that. So I have had to do some hardcore work, and that's what I want to put that out there in saying that I believe I have this privilege, that sometimes I can forget that I have PTSD. Sometimes I'll have solid days, sometimes even like close to a week, where I am not experiencing triggers, where I'm not having flashbacks or, general memories of the stuff that has happened to me in my past. And then something like yesterday will happen. So I literally was having a great morning. I'd woken up, did a meditation, was feeling I woke up groggy and just decided to start my day off on the right foot. Did that meditation, did my skin, my teeth, really got ready for the day, was feeling good. Started my day, went to work, saw a couple clients, feeling good, came downstairs, went to plug in the Christmas tree, feeling good, stood up from plugging in the Christmas tree and beamed my head off of a bookshelf. Well, not a bookshelf, but like a decorative shelf that we put like figurines and stuff on. And it's only secured to the wall using two screws. And so when I hit it, I literally just bumped the whole thing up off of the wall. And the shelf came crashing down. All of the figurines and stuff that were on it went scattering. Things broke. A picture frame broke. Like, and of course, I had just beamed my head off of this like really hard, pointy shelf. So I'm standing there with my hand on my head, and I'm feeling this throbbing pain in my head. And my wife, I kind of was there because we were literally in the middle of a conversation. And all of a sudden, I'm holding my head. I'm like, I just had this accident. This was totally an accident that I knocked this shelf off the wall. And my head is pounding, and that should be my focus, right? Like I should be tending into me and the fact that I was in pain and that this was an accident. And instead I was overcome all of a sudden with guilt for having had the accident, with shame for having had this accident, for fear of my wife, who's never gone off on me, going off on me. And I'm like, whoa, right? So I immediately just kind of paused in, and then the flashback happened. And there I was, and I'm not going to get into any details about my past experiences here, but there I was, transported back to this moment where another bookshelf, not by accident but by purpose, had been thrown, not by me but by someone in my life, and the figurines that were on the shelf were everywhere. And so I'm in this memory, and I'm in the trauma trigger, right? And I'm having this visceral reminder that I do in fact have PTSD. Oh, and I sat down. My wife led me to the kitchen, and I sat down and I started crying, and they went to get peas, frozen peas to put on my head. And I just cried and opened it up and found the presents, and I looked around my room and I verbalized, and I was like, man, all of this processing, all this emotional processing is so draining, it's so tiring. And I acknowledged, like, wow, I had had that privilege for a moment of forgetting that I have all these shitty memories of my past. And there it was, flooding back. So I'm not going to talk about my conceptualization of the spiral, the healing spiral today. But I definitely will if anyone is interested in my conceptualization of the healing spiral. But it was a moment where I recognized, like, oh, we are coming back around in the trauma cycle to see where the healing is at and how far along that I have come. And I had this moment of just sinking into, wow, I'm so much more present now. Because in the past, before I learned the power of presence, I would just dissociate. I would, deplete myself, become depressed, collapse, go catatonic because I didn't have the presence to attune to myself and see what I really needed in the moment. And so I really want to emphasize the importance of making time for being present when we are not overwhelmed, triggered, or already at capacity. Because I use this with clients all the time. I want you to imagine most people who tuned into this are probably not bus drivers. If you are a bus driver, because I have several friends who actually are, somehow it's an interesting niche of friends to have. But if you are a bus driver, maybe think about fixing a computer or something you've never done before. But I'm going to use the bus example here. So you have never in your life driven a bus. And suddenly there's an emergency, and you have to drive this bus full of school children somewhere safe. And you get on the bus, and you are already probably feeling panicked, right? You're already feeling overwhelmed because there's an emergency, and now you have to drive the bus, but you've never driven the bus before. And if you can picture the dashboard of a school bus, there's all kinds of buttons and levers. And I'm like, how do they learn how to drive this? Like, do you have to use all the buttons? And their pedals, I think, are different. And there's little knobs that you got to pull out. I would not have any clue what to do. So I imagine if you are not a school bus driver, you might have a similar experience. If you are a school bus driver and you've never built a computer before and the computer blows up, you're probably going to be like, I don't know what to do here. I guess I don't have a computer anymore unless I can get somebody to fix it, right? Basically, the bottom line with this metaphor is you can't expect to know what to do in an emergency if you've never practiced when you didn't have an emergency. I will say that again. How can you expect to be able to handle yourself in an emergency if you have never practiced how you will deal with that sort of emergency? Right? If you've never been mindful before, if you're not in a good relationship with presence, if you're not able to have anchoring skills and know how to kind of come back into yourself, what the hell are you going to do when you're overloaded, you're anxious, you're having a panic attack, you're depressed, you've just beamed your head off of a shelf and you're having a flashback? What are you going to do? You're going to freak out. You're going to shut down. You're going to dissociate. You're going to run away. Your nervous system is going to automatically turn on fight, flight, freeze, and you're just going to do whatever you can to survive. So it is so important to make time, opportunities to sit in presence when there's nothing going on. There's no emergency, there's no deadline, there's nothing to do. It's just, here I am, and I'm present with me, and I'm noticing what's around me. And this is a very powerful practice for presence. Literally just looking around our space. Slowly taking it all in. I'm not feeling panicked right now. I'm not overwhelmed right now. I don't need to anchor back into my nervous system, but I want to, because I want to practice that presence so that when a moment like yesterday happens, I can sit down, I can feel the feelings without them carrying me out of my body, and I can make a choice as to what I wanted to do. And I made the choice yesterday to sit, process the feelings, talk through them, look around my space, and then when I was feeling better, help undo the mess on the floor, even though it's not my fault that accident happened. So All of this to say, whether you have PTSD or not, like me, presence is so important and you need to practice presence, whether that is 3 minutes of breathing or mindfulness, a walk in nature to look around, doing what I just did, where you slowly scan your space, anything that brings you into the present moment with awareness and non judgment. That's, getting present here and now, not carried away into the past, not carried away into the future, but here. And we want to be able to cultivate the ability to do this so that when we have an emergency, when we have a trigger or a negative situation come up, we can reorient back to ourselves without feeling completely, discombobulated and disconnected from ourselves. So that's part of what my silver wheel program is going to be about, is about coming into 8 intentional moments of awareness throughout the year to really like fine tune what's going on in our lives and get that powerful presence. The power of presence is here now, though, right? You don't need to be a part of anything. You don't need to be of literally anything in order to become present. You can be present right here, right now, listening to the sound of my voice. You can become present here, right now, by acknowledging your space. You can become present here, right now, in any way, shape, or form. So let me know in the comments how you like to be present, what helps you anchor into presence. I would love to hear. And, I hope that this story is useful for you, and knowing that whether you, again, you have PTSD or not, like me, the presence and mindfulness and being here now is important for everyone because it anchors us into our lives, and that's where we can make meaning. So until next time.